The Online Safety Act was introduced in 2023 under the previous Conservative government. As part of that, there was a clause about age restrictions and preventing children from accessing what the bill calls harmful content. And that came into force within the last few days. Now, there are a few different ways in which services can ask you to prove that you're an adult. And we're going to talk through a few of them, some of the flaws. First of all, services can do this themselves, or they can outsource it to a third party. There are services like Persona that will do that for them.
I think KID is one I've seen a lot of.
Yeah.
And there's also, I believe, Kids Web or Kids Online Service, which is owned by Epic Games now.
God.
But it's like that's the one that the Blue Sky has outsourced their age verification to.
I would like to reiterate my point at the start that do you really need the service that is asking for your... Because if anything I use asks for it, unless it's my bank, which has already asked for it, I'm not going to give it.
So to be clear, like social media sites, it's not like Blue Sky is blocking you. I'm just using Blue Sky as an example here. It's true of Twitter as well. Blue Sky is not blocking you from logging into Blue Sky without giving your ID over.
But it is blocking you from accessing certain parts of it, such as content that it believes should only be seen by adults. And I think also, though I'll need to double check this, I believe it blocks you from using direct messages.
Yes, it does.
If you're not over 18.
I mean, I'm not a particularly online person with social media, but I will accept that loss. I refuse to give my ID to companies I do not trust. Yes.
The other thing with Blue Sky is because of the way it all works, none of this is actually enforceable. So if you host, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, you can host your own app view, which is like kind of the website view that you get on Blue Sky when you go to bsky.app or whatever the URL is. You can host your own one of those that doesn't go through the process of checking age. And because basically everything needs to be able to fetch that content from the back end, none of this is enforceable. So you can just host your own app view, which gets you all of that access to content, which would otherwise be blocked by the official one.
Which is sort of a more general problem with this, which we'll come on to briefly, but mandating age verification on these services will mean that those under 18 would not be able to access them. However, as is the case on the internet, not every company will follow the law. And if you are somebody who is seeking out certain material they may be interested in, and the more popular sites are requiring you to prove your identity, you will just end up going to ones which don't, and will often be less scrupulous about moderating the content that they have on there.
Say you go to, I don't know, a random website, and the top 4 links, or you search something, and the top 4 links ask you for ID. If you are under 18, what you're going to do is just keep scrolling until one of them works. And lo and behold, you'll get to one that just don't care what's on their site. And you may see some things that you wouldn't have seen on the old site.
I think it's important to be explicit about what types of content the bill is aiming to block. It's, first and foremost, it's porn. That's the primary goal. But it's
the main source of, or the main drive of technology.
It's also content about eating disorders and self-harm and things like that. Which could include some useful support information that people really need access to.
That's the problematic
thing.
But
the goal is to sort of avoid encouraging those things by making them more visible.
Yes.
Another thing that it blocks is like, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it blocks access to like essentially like gore and like gratuitous harm to people, which is like a noble aim. But one of the main ways in which journalism is spread from war-torn countries is by posting images of what's happening on social media sites. And so what's happening is that people in the UK, like us, are being stopped from seeing journalism, essentially like war journalism, because it's being automatically blocked for being gore.
Yeah. Shall we go back to the different ways that you can prove your age, or that services might ask you?
So we've already talked about facial age verification, and we've had a excellent example of why this might fail.
Also, this doesn't work for me. I've tried multiple times to verify my identity on Blue Sky because, unlike Jamie, I would like to be able to use my direct messages. And it just doesn't accept my facial age estimation. I don't think I look like a child, and yet.
So, Dizzy, how old are you?
You look a lot older than me.
Dizzy,
I am 23.
So you're 23, and what does it tell you what age it thinks you are when you scan it, or does it just tell you you're underage?
No,
It just says it
just
can't
doesn't
confirm the
accept it.
overage.
I see. Right. Well, you can see, viewers at home. Look at Dizzy. Guess what age?
Yeah, I
And
get
if-
ID'd.
And if
I
your
get
answer
ID'd
is
for
any
energy drinks sometimes, so that kind of.
Hmm.
other methods include open banking, where you give permission to the service verifying your identity to talk to your bank and ask, is the holder of this account over 18? There
I've
are
not seen that one. Out
That
in the
one
wild,
doesn't
personally.
seem so bad. I can't, because that's a trusted.
I presume
third
we've not
party.
seen it that often because it's more complicated to implement.
I can imagine, but I wouldn't necessarily be against that one because a bank which I have no choice but to trust anyway has my information, and if I'm just telling them, look, this is my bank account, go ask, or this is my bank provider, sorry, as long as I'm not giving them my bank details, as it were, like I don't know, some sort of sort code or credit card details.
Unfortunately, might have to.
You see, that's the problem. If they can implement it in a way where I just give them the account number and my name, I'd probably be less fussed. But I don't know.
And there's a similar one where they'll check with your mobile network instead of your bank. But
I trust them less.
the two most commonly available, and in some cases, for Reddit, for instance, the only two methods that they will provide are the facial age estimation and submitting your ID.
Also,
now,
if they're checking
one
with
issue.
your phone network, a lot of people, especially teenagers, their parents pay the phone bill, so it's their
Well,
parents.
it's not specifically whether you have a phone plan. It's that phone providers are already required to have an option to allow or block adult content on your mobile data. And so what it's checking is whether that option is enabled or disabled for the account that you are using.
I counter with my
Okay.
mum didn't know that was an option and never enabled it because I also had access to her account and I can see what she's selected, and she never did because she's not a technological person. So I don't necessarily think that one many people will trust, just because if your parents don't understand about that, they wouldn't have ticked it. Sometimes if it's on by default, maybe, but like you can just tell your mum you need it off for something, and a lot of them you could probably social engineer into it.
I think we don't need to say any more about the risks of uploading pictures of your ID to questionable third-party
No,
services.
We've already had a section about that.
What I will add is that for some services where the only options involve uploading a photo or taking a photo with your camera, let's say you wanted to access some support information and you were a young person and you went to use a library computer. That doesn't have a webcam. So how can you verify your age to access that?
You can't. This is the
Yes.
problem.
And particularly for the facial age estimation one, not only is it prone to false negatives, but it has also been shown by UK internet users to be bypassable using rather hilarious methods,
Yes.
including the photo mode in the video game Death Stranding. So if Persona or all of these services see a suspicious number of their users appearing to look like Norman Reedus,
I mean, to be fair, technically, they wouldn't see these pictures because all the face scan does is at least they claim that they scan the photo and then delete it immediately. So I think that is important to say. Like none of these are getting
We've heard that
stored.
claim before.
In theory, if we trust what they're saying, which again, different discussion.
I'm a
if we
very
trust what
cynical
they're-
person.
If we trust what they're saying, then these photos that they're taking are being immediately deleted, unlike with the T app where they were being kept. But carry on.
Now, because a lot of these services target an audience beyond just the UK, they will most commonly only apply these restrictions to users who appear to be accessing the site from the UK.
Although I will say there is an exception in that X has applied this across Europe as well because there's plan legislation along the same lines and they decided to
And
do it all at
because the
once.
age verification method that X has chosen to use is that you buy X Premium, which is its own can of worms that I'd prefer not to open. But many of these services are only applying this ruling to users who appear to be in the UK. Now, Cameron,
Yes.
suppose I was a teenager or an adult looking to access materials that the Ofcom things I shouldn't be. Is there a technology out there that would allow me to appear to not be in the UK?
And that brings us to today's sponsor, NordVPN.
We are not sponsored. We should clarify.
Please give us money.
That would be great. but-
Yeah, so for one thing, the verification methods themselves are flawed.
I didn't know
have a
Tim
number
it
of
was a
issues.
VPN. Sorry, I didn't realize that wasn't a list of VPNs. Carry on.
But second of all, it's quite easy to get around these restrictions by downloading a VPN. And as you can
The
see,
top 3 results on the Apple Store are VPNs. The uptick in searches for VPN in the UK is
On July 25th,
that's more than double. That's more than triple. Is that quadruple? I can't tell from here.
It's roughly 5 times because it's around 20 and then it goes up to 100.
There you are.
So in other words, they've introduced this whole bill and put in all these restrictions, and it's trivial to get around.
So if you
Yeah.
bought stock in a VPN company,
There was some discussion that there might be a VPN ban as a way to get around this. But
Good luck.
I think Labour
that's
have,
going to be a whole can of worms.
Labour have ruled that out.
That is authoritarian
Can I-
type stuff.
A lot of the issues that we're having with this law is that it's kind of been written by. It's not been written by someone that absolutely understands the ins and outs of the internet.
well,
So if they try and enact a VPN ban, it's going to be even worse.
to be a bit more specific, the law was written by lawmakers, and it was very light on technical detail, intentionally so, as many laws like this tend to be. Because the way that lawmaking is often done is that lawmakers, in this case Parliament, will sort of set out, here's what we want to do in law, and then leave the blanks to be filled in by the government. And this filling in the blanks is called secondary legislation. In this case, this was left up to Ofcom, the UK's government regulator for technology and, well, communications, including the internet. And I would not be surprised if, when it landed on the desk of some civil servant at Ofcom, and they went, how the bloody hell are we going to enforce this? To which another civil servant looked over and went, I don't know, mate, but we're going to have to. And that's how we ended up where we are.
Yeah.
So I think we've seen that the restrictions aren't very well enforced. They're easy to get around. Are they at least well targeted? Are they protecting
No.
people from the content?
Not
that
in
we
the
want to be protected
slightest.
from?
Nope.
Here are a few examples of subreddits that are now age gated. r/cider.
For discussions of cider.
Yeah,
I am a cider drinker. I drink it all of the day.
Sorry, where's your ID? You're going to need to show me the ID so we could talk about cider.
Then r/sexual assault, which is a support forum, and r/stop smoking. Those are all banned. And this person said, thank you for protecting our children from these sick freaks. I have seen it pointed out as well that surely you should be able to open r/cider from the age of 16 as long as you have r/food open in a separate tab.
Which is a great bit and also something I genuinely want them to do. That would be so funny,
It would
please.
be incredibly amusing.
And here's another example. This is someone resigning their Labour membership and saying that they're going to sit on their council as an independent. And that has been blocked by X. That's been age gated. And there's clearly no harm there to anyone.
Well, I genuinely.
That's
why?
and not only
Like,
that is public interest political information.
Yes.
Which is something that the Act, at least in theory, sets out to protect.
And
The only
why?
thing I can think of is the word homeless.
but no. So
No,
so to
it's
be
not
clear,
the one on the left
yeah.
that's been blocked. It's
Oh,
that.
sorry, I'm with you. I was going to say.
Yeah. So you can
It's
see
completely unobjectionable.
Oh, yeah, no, there is nothing there.
So
Yeah.
We suspect that this has happened because X has chosen to be on the safe side and overblock rather than underblock.
exactly,
Yes.
and this is why, because the fines that can be imposed on companies are whichever is the greater of £18 million or 10% of their worldwide revenue.
And
I would ban everything.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So, as much as some people have leapt to the thing of this is censorship, this is how the definition of harmful content can be abused to hide political speech and censor people. And I'm not saying that it can't be used that way, but I think there's also very much an effect of platforms wanting to cover their arse, and that's why Reddit won't let you see
Yeah.
r/cider without checking that you're an adult, because they want to make absolutely sure that they can't be fined 10% of their
Yeah.
global revenue.
like there's been
Also, like-
some quite conspiratorial talk, as you suggested, like this is being deliberately used to censor information about the wars that I suggested earlier, or like other political content. But no, it is almost certainly just an unintended consequence of the ruling being done in the way that it has.
But albeit a very negative one.
And
A very
and
concerning
adding the
one.
technical capability to do this would undeniably leave the option open for future governments to apply it to content that they disagree with. I'm not saying
and
it's
some
being
of the
done today.
things-
I'm saying that it has now become technically possible.
There
Some of
was
the things that are getting blocked are like various bits of queer content, LGBT content that they're like, it's too adult.
Mhm.
This could very, very easily snowball into like an online Section 28, which is mildly scary.
There was this thing with Wikipedia.
Yes,
that
so
you were speaking
interestingly,
to me about the other day.
because of how broad the specific wording of the law, Wikipedia would be classed as a Category 1 website and thus be required to implement, what is the word, highly reliable age verification for volunteers wishing to contribute because it allows people to talk to each other, which, yes, it technically does. And thus, if you squint very tightly, you could consider Wikipedia as a social network, but it's plainly not. And
Do I have to do age verification if I want to talk on Xbox Live?
Because I haven't Facebook Messenger, for example. I haven't come across anything. That might be because Facebook knows my age, but they haven't verified my age in any way. I've just filled in the box.
I use WhatsApp to speak to people. Do I have to show my age on that?
Yeah.
What about my text messages?
I don't have the definition of a Category 1 platform in front of me. Bear with, I'm looking up the full text of the legislation, which is probably dangerous.
What I will say is that there are some provisions separate to the age gating element of the Online Safety Act to do with scanning for sensitive images on encrypted messaging sites like those.
Okay.
But it does say that won't be enforced until it's technically plausible, which is
this,
never, because that's not how encryption works.
Is this why Apple was having that war with the UK government?
No,
No,
this
that's
is an
a
entirely
different
separate thing,
Okay, fair
which
enough.
we'll come on to later.
Yeah.
The definition of what is a Category 1 service, which the most stringent protections in the Act apply to, is one that either uses a content recommender system and has more than 34 million UK users on the user-to-user part of its service, which is approximately 50% of the UK population, or allows users to forward or reshare user-generated content, uses a content recommender system, and has more than 7 million UK users. That wording is very broad.
Very broad.
In principle, Wikipedia.org having a share button would be classed as allowing users to forward or reshare user-generated content.
Yes.
Which is why the Wikimedia Foundation, the non-profit that operates Wikipedia and the other Wikimedia website, has brought a legal challenge to specifically, we need to be specific here, specifically the fact that Wikipedia would be considered a Category 1 service and possibly required to implement identity verification. Now, as of, I believe, just over a week ago, this went to the Royal Court of Justice and they had a hearing on this, and a ruling is expected in, I believe the wording they used was not July, and indeed there has not been a ruling yet.
The wording was not July.
Yes, the wording used by the judge in the case was that the ruling is likely to come in. Let me find the exact term. Yes, a quote from one of the lawyers at the Wikimedia Foundation is that timing-wise, the judge indicated we shouldn't expect a ruling before the end of July. August is more likely.
Okay.
What he did say is that the judge who was hearing the case was, I quote, switched on and very engaged with the issues we were raising, seems to understand why Wikipedia is so important, how it works, and why it's not like the UK Online Safety Act classical targets. And we, the Wikimedia Foundation's lawyers, think he saw how the law's flawed design can have some very unfortunate and unintended consequences. However, he also seemed to be a strong believer that English courts should offer the government significant leeway when making technical policy decisions. So what way the ruling will swing is not yet known, and it's probably not wise to speculate.
Yes. This isn't going to just go away. The UK government isn't going to go oopsie and retract this. There was a poll, a petition that came out with the intention of, asking the UK government to repeal it, that got hundreds of thousands of signatures. And the UK government replied to the essentially saying no, and it will not be considered to do so. So
It is going for a debate in Parliament.
we'll see what the outcome of that is. It's almost certainly going to be no. This may, there hopefully will be tweaks with time that may, get closer to its intended effect of just stopping children from seeing porn and not all of these other things.
How
but-
technically feasible that is a question that remains
Yes.
open.
And this isn't going away.
No.
This is just... This is the future of the internet now.
Australia has
UK.
a very similar piece of legislation coming into effect in December as well.
And there's been murmurings from US lawmakers about something similar.
And as we mentioned earlier, Europe is having a similar rule put in place too.